Hello, it's your favorite nobody. And today I thought we finally go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Yeah. This is Ganesha, or Ganesh, a remover of obstacles, a patron of arts and sciences, lord of beginnings. As an atheist, I enjoy me weird ancient deities, and this is one of the better ones, I suspect, and I think it's quite beloved in Hinduism. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I am okay. I might not look it, but I think I'm okay. Um, there is a way to time travel. There is a way to time travel. But let me see if I can make sense of this. There's a beautiful book by Carlo Rovelli called The Order of Time. And if you do get a chance to listen to it, it's narrated by Benedict Cumberbatch. It's also a fantastic read because, it's not that big. And it's kind of made for everybody who is curious about time, for everybody who is not satisfied with how we treat time, which is linearly, which is one arrow going from birth to death, just in one straight line. Yeah, I'm one of those people who isn't keen on that very much. Not because we can in any way escape this, but because there is ways to think outside of that narrative. There are ways that are not incorrect at all. And Mr. Rovelli makes a very good point about time as something that's quantifiable and different in any one point it's measured. Time as an experience and how we experience time, how we accumulate memories, how we over time get a sense of self, and that's important as well. So I will share with you how I deal with this, how I handle my time, because it has changed. And I think, and I hope that as you go through life, your take on time will change as well. Your take on your own time, how you treat your own time will change. Let's start with the first bit, which is you want to perspective the fuck out of things. Or you don't have to do it all the time because that's absolutely insane and it's cognitively super taxing. But you have to remember that things are magnitude more complex than they appear. So a very simple example, take a pasta dish. On the surface of it, when cooked, it's a proper pasta dish. It's something that either resonates with you and it looks like food and it smells like food, so you're like, oh yeah. And maybe you love pasta and then you're like all over it. And maybe you love pasta and it's bad pasta and then you hate it. But then think of the ingredients of that. So before it's cooked, you just look at the ingredients. That's no longer appetizing. They're suggestive of what's going to happen, but they are not appetizing anymore. So now how you feel about them changes. And then think about their chemical structures. So we go one level deeper. Now, if you knew the chemical structures of every component that goes into your pasta, that's still unappetizing, and moreover, if you looked at the chemical information, you probably won't be able to make out what's happening with any of that. You probably won't be able to tell that these are the ingredients that go into your favorite pasta dish or pizza or whatever. Just take this analogy with anything you like to eat. And now from the chemical side of things, let's go pure physics and go to the molecular, atomic, quantum, and then that just goes deeper and deeper and deeper, and the meaning of the ingredients of the pasta dish is completely entangled. It's completely unraveled. time just means something else for it now, and it just, the whole thing changes meaning, even though it's effectively, if you work your way back, it's your pasta dish, it's your ingredients to your pasta dish. And now blow that up. So your pasta dish, more generally, you can say, oh, it's a Sicilian or a Roman pasta dish. But if you don't say what pasta dish that is or what ingredients go into it, you're like, well, there is thousands of recipes. Which one do you mean? And then you take that away and you say, oh, it's one of the beloved Italian foods. And you're like, okay, so now you're zooming out still. And you're like, oh, so you know the region of the world. But again, what is it? Maybe it's something I don't eat. And then you blow that up again, you say Mediterranean. You know, suddenly you've got an entire chunk of a planet. And you're like, oh, Mediterranean, yeah. So fish and olives and olive oil and carbs, you know, bread, pasta, gluten, and all that good jazz. And then you blow that up again on a global scale, and it's almost like, oh yeah, it's food. It's food for this group of creatures called humans. You know, for these species called humans, this is food. It's calorie dense, chemical composition that has some cultural significance to a part of the population. And then you take that from outside of the planet, and again, it's just, so that's what I mean. There's an entire spectrum of things, and you can go absolutely crazy with this. And I suspect that some people just work with one of these. I'm pretty sure there are people who love chemistry and like to play with chemistry and think about the chemicals, and some people like the physics. Some people don't like to cook, but they love to eat. Some people love to cook, but don't really eat that much, or they eat specific diets. So you have a little bit of everything for everyone, and everybody and everyone will kind of look at this slightly differently. So that's perspective. And you just have to figure out that, yes, if you select a part of this spectrum and you say, this works for me, that's fine. Just remember that's bias, or it kind of is analogous to bias. If you don't account for the fact, or if you don't consider the fact that there's this whole scale of one thing that can go in very extreme ways. I think the second point is, again, time as measurement versus time as experience, which kind of to me also is this whole difference between data or data and information. So data is inputs. Data is anything you pick up with your senses, anything that comes into contact with you. That's data in a way, one simple way of saying it. But you can have data all day, every day. And in fact, we do get inputs all day, every day. All kinds of inputs. And depending on how our brain works and how our senses work, that changes. It completely changes. If you're blind, you miss a bunch of data, but then you get other data, and so on and so forth. But yes, all of that makes little to no use if you then don't take all of the data or data and convert that into actionable information. So, for example, if you know if you know the ingredients to pasta, because you like to partake in a game show of some kind, and they ask you about this specific pasta and ask for one ingredient in it, and it's one of the answers, and you're like, oh, I know this. But then if you don't know how to cook it, or if you don't care how to cook it, this is just, it's data we think it's information, but it's not really useful to you in any way. It's not really applicable to your life and how you do stuff. And that's why I usually don't get that shocked by kids' geniuses, because yes, you can indeed consume a lot of data and then regurgitate, and that might look like information, but unless you see and feel some utility in all of that, or if there's any usefulness to it, it's kind of you just having a lot of data, just holding on to a lot of stuff in your head. Good for you. But that also changes how we experience time. You see, in one day you've got 24 hours. But what really matters in 24 hours and just how much can you remember, how much can you recall, is a different matter altogether. And as I sit here rambling about this, my time right now is diametrically opposite to people living next to me. We're sharing the same thing. We're sharing the same resource, kind of. So we're on the same time zone. We're looking at the same arrows. But our experience of this is different. And that's very important. It's just something to keep our eyes and minds open to. Yes, you need to be able to respect time as something that's measured and quantifiable, because that's kind of how the world ticks. That's what gets the world going. That's what helps us get around. It's what helps trade. It's what enables all of this around us, pretty much. It's time and how we measure time, and the fact that some of us respect time. But then we also have to make space for time that as pure experience. And if you're not having a good time for one reason or another, then yeah, that's something to work on. It's something to explore. And that ties into point 3, which is actually what enables this sort of time travel, is just caring for our future selves. It's caring for our future selves. It's very hard to imagine what a person would be like themselves, 5-10 years from now. And that's why I find this question so ridiculous during interviews. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Fudge if I know. Hopefully alive, hopefully doing well, hopefully in gainful employment, and not alone and eaten up by anxiety and all kinds of stresses, and kind of getting all the weird feelings. Yeah, definitely not caught in a war zone of some kind or some global cataclysm of some sorts. So it's difficult. It's a difficult question to answer. It's difficult. But I think outside of interviews, that question is worth asking as well. A person should be asking themselves, hey, what will I be like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, health-wise, intelligence-wise, job-wise, and so on and so on, relationship-wise. And I think to enable a sort of time travel, we just have to learn to care for that person. We absolutely have to learn to care for that person. Meaning, we have to make the effort now, right now. It's just another way of saying what everybody else is saying. Just try and look after yourself, clean your room, do your stuffs, take care of work. If you fall down, get up and push. If you feel like breaking, reach out to people, ask for help. There is no shame in that. You need therapy. I'm not selling any products. I'm not going to tell you to go do stuff. But yeah, speak to a professional. Do whatever it needs doing. Make sure that your future self has a good foundation to stand on. Because you will be different. If you're in your 20s now, that's hard to see. Or if you're younger, again, harder still. But as you grow older and you look back, you're like, my goodness me, 10 years ago, I was a different person. I know that for myself. 10 years ago, I was a different person. And although I've carried some of the memories and the identity and the character, there's a lot that's changed. A lot has changed, and it's not just visual. It's more than skin deep. It's more than skin deep. So yeah, there is a way to time travel. Do you have the space, the capacity, the desire, the drive to do it? And if you don't, I hope you consider this. I hope you consider making the effort. That is all. I'll talk to you next time.